Their
I heard we
ratings
work
were
for Impact.
846,000 viewers.
Holy shit!
846,000. So they're like, I mean, people go, "Oh, the million, it's an arbitrary number." But it's like, but a million makes you go,
Elaborate.
well, everybody on online is just like, because everyone goes online like, they couldn't even break a million and shit. Like everyone says that every week. And then people go, oh, a million. Who came up with that metric? It's just an arbitrary number. But it's like, no, man, the dirt sheet
God
people were the
damn it!
ones who were like, look, they did 1.2 and NXT only did this much. They beat NXT. And then they'd say, look,
Oh,
they'd say,
or
look, they did like a 1 million rating. Look, and Raw only did a 1 point whatever. And if they catch this, then it'll be that. So they were always doing,
HBK.
so yeah, so they were always doing like the 1 million thing. Like, and people say it's an arbitrary number. Like, who gives a fuck about 1 million? Like, who made that up? You don't know shit about TV ratings. And it's like, listen, we all know that when AEW got signed, the whole thing with Turner was like they just wanted at least 500,000 live viewers every week. That's why
Good
like
for them, man.
Rampage is a failure, but like Dynamite, they're like well over exceeding what the executives and shit wanted. So you can always
Right,
give them
and
that.
it'll be great.
But that being said, 846, like a million isn't arbitrary, because when AEW, if they could do 1.2, 1.3, the reason we go a million is because put something on the table that makes people besides CM Punk come back and watch your show, and you don't lose 3 to 4 to 500,000 viewers every fucking show. That's what people want. That's why we say a million. Get above a million, and then we'll go, okay, now we're talking. Like, now you're at least competing with Vince in a way, like, oh, look,
Right.
like, look, you're right there. People talk about WCW in the 83 weeks. They beat WWF a lot more than 83 weeks, folks. They beat them a lot more than that. They just did it for 83 consecutive. Okay.
Yeah.
Tony hasn't even touched WWE once other than NXT. And I'm sorry, but NXT is developmental. That's what it always
Right.
was. It was a super indie. And then Tony Khan made the super indie show. So all the people who were watching NXT, WWE, NXT for WWE shit are still there watching it. And all the people who were trying to watch a super indie just went over to AEW. And that's why the
Yeah.
million is not arbitrary. Their last ratings were like in the 776,000, whatever. So this week they do 846,000. Okay. And people are going, look, man, fuck. Like, for a go home show to double or nothing, you don't even have a million. And then, of course, the Wrestling Observer newsletter goes, ratings up in the go home show from double, not, hey, man,
Shocker.
their key demos like hurting and going down again and shit or whatever. And not like, oh, you only have to point to the negative, but when you only point to the positive, there's a problem with that too, folks. So, yeah. Anyways, let's talk about the show. We're
Man.
bitching about the ratings. Orange Cassidy in an international title defense. Now, I got a few things to say. First off, a lot of people go, Orange isn't in the lowest rated segments. He's always in the highest rated segments usually. Yeah, you guys know why? Because he's always in the very first. This is what Tony Khan thinks, right? This is how he's
Oh,
thinking.
that's so smart of Tony. Tony's
I,
a genius, bro.
yeah, I'm right about this because I've called this a bunch of times about, I know how AEW thinks, right? So what it is that Tony Khan puts Orange there because he thinks if people just see his work, he's going to win Tony over, or win the fans over, or people over, the way he won Tony Khan over. So yes, Orange is in the highest rated segments because Tony puts him at the start of the show all the time, where all the rollover people from Big Bang are still there, and people go, it's not Big Bang.
Right.
Dave Meltzer tweeted me that Big Bang has no effect, but yes, it
Really?
does. So then you're admitting that 400,000 people just jump off a cliff and die as soon as the show starts? Or is it that the Big Bang people are rolling over?
I admit that Dave needs to clean his fucking room. Move
Jesus. On. No doubt. So,
Dave,
and then also, let me just break down. Let me just
hold on.
Go ahead.
Talk about one guy. Talk about one guy that discredited himself faster than anyone else in the wrestling industry ever.
Ever. Because why? Why? People go,
Ever.
why? Well,
This is a
because I'll tell
fucking
you why.
mark.
When
Because you have to be over with
WWE
a bunch of fucking kids over in California.
when WWE's ratings suffer for all these years, what does fucking Dave point to? Well, the key demo's gone down and the overall ratings have gone down. The overall ratings, and he's even tweeted it out. Ratings are what mattered. 5 years ago, ratings matter. Key demos don't. That's what he would say. Now, when it comes to AEW, what does he do? He goes, oh, the key demo's what matters. The ratings aren't. You don't get it. Cord cutters. In 5 years, there's been cord cutters, and you don't get how ratings work. No, we do, Dave. We
No, he
fucking
doesn't.
do.
He doesn't get. He
Yeah.
doesn't get how ratings work.
Yeah. It's like, Dave, we do, man. There's a reason fucking Vice just went bankrupt. There's a reason CNN started hurting when they couldn't talk about Donald Trump anymore and they almost went fucking out of business. There's a reason for this shit, Dave, because ratings matter, and even these, and people go, oh, social media impressions, they're great. We get so much social media impressions. Social media impressions just means someone scrolled past your shit on a fucking Facebook, bro. That doesn't mean anything. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to all you people who pay for your fucking little impressions. They don't really mean anything. Okay. Right. It's like putting a fucking shiny thing in front of a kid for a second. The next shiny thing comes along, they forget about it. So you guys are crazy. This is like Dana White and over in UFC saying power slap. We get all these social media impressions. That's why your first pay-per-view had to be for free on Rumble, because the social media impressions are so great and are what. Fuck you guys, man. We get how ratings work. If 200,000 people are watching your show, it's a fucking flop. Now, there was like 300,000 people watching Rampage. It's a flop. And everyone goes, it's a flop. Why? Because the ratings are shit. Even Dave goes, no one's watching Rampage. But then it comes to fucking Dynamite and the ratings are 770K. The ratings are 846K. And we're fucking not going, yeah, well, the ratings are down since Punk was on TV. We're going, Punk screwed AEW. Fuck you guys, man. I'm getting sick of this fucking shit. Back to Orange Cassidy. Yuck. So,
man, yeah, you fucking tangented hard there. I regret fucking going, Dave, clean your room.
Yeah,
Even
bro.
though, Dave, you really do need to clean your room.
Now I'm about to go even harder. So how about this? So ROH tag titles are on the line. Claudio and Wheeler. And they're a fun team on Ring of Honor.
Not on Ring of Honor. Not on Ring of Honor. Though.
Yeah, but not on, this isn't Ring of Honor.
Main event.
It's just Tony needs to realize, and people go, arbitrary number, million, arbitrary number, but it's not, because you have to think, man, like if 2 million people were going to ever watch Ring of Honor, they were going to do it 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, bro. They're not doing it now all this time later, Tony. So why are you just have AEW and then have Ring of Honor be like your NXT? It's so simple. You have it right there. Just do it. Like, be smart, man. Do business right.
Finex was doing some really great selling throughout the match, but what I really just didn't like here is like he just really worked for a hot tag to Penta, and the hot tag just sucked. You know what I'm saying? The crowd didn't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? Like the wrestling psychology again isn't there. And I know I'm just saying the same shit I say every week, but it's just another example of crap, bro.
It's just crazy. It's almost like people say this shit and then they go, you just sound like Cornette, or you just sound like these people. And the thing is that no, we're all saying it because we're all like, I don't agree with Cornette on a bunch of shit. I just called out some shit I didn't agree with him on. But the thing is that when we're all saying this one thing and everyone seems to, like, half the audience that are like, no, I'd watch the show, but there's no fucking psychology and it's made for marks. And it's like, instead of going, well, let me try it your way. Let me try the criticism and wear it for a day and fucking maybe roll with that. It's like they're going, nope, we're right and we're going to do what we want to do. And just to prove you wrong. But then they keep proving themselves wrong, but then they sell 70K in fucking Wembley, and then we all got to shut up for 2 months until this show's done, you know, because they sold 70. I don't give a fuck. WWE sells that many tickets every 2 months, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever. Every time they do a big show, like, how many tickets do you think they sold in Saudi? Fuck you talking about? Like, I don't, like, you know.
Yeah, for real, bro.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I liked on commentary with Brian too when he was all like, "Well, you know what, guys? We tuck our fucking heads and our chins on the fucking pile driver or something like that. Do you think the Young Bucks tuck their heads correctly? Do you think Kenny tucks his head correctly? No. the fuck they do. It's those little things like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
And that's the sort of thing that AEW should have been from the beginning, is people like Danielson, like giving it a sports feel where people like Danielson can win with a variety of different submissions and different holds. And we do see more small packages and real wrestling. And they should have had things like that, where Danielson, you have credible people come in and on commentary instead of this fucking, oh, and welcome to Dynamite and fucking blah, blah, blah. It should be somebody who's in there going, listen, the reason pro wrestlers, they wrestle every week, it's not like MMA, so they don't punch. The reason they chop and don't punch with a closed fist is because they'll break their hands, and you don't want to break your hands and or get cut up or cut up your opponent, because the match might get stopped, and if the match gets stopped, you don't get the winning money, because the winning money's more. And guess what? That's why we use elbow strikes and we use forearms and we don't use and we use palm strikes and chops in pro wrestling, is because we don't want to break our hands. We have to wrestle week to week. In MMA, they might fight 3 times a year, so they're gonna wrap their hands up to punch each other in the face, dead in the face. In pro wrestling, it's much different. When you slam someone down on the mat, you're trying to incapacitate them for 3 seconds. That's why we don't just walk up and start throwing fists. How many times have you seen in MMA or boxing where a guy gets dropped and he gets up and he pops right back up instantly? Hey, you can win with a variety of submission holds. Hey, every time fucking Moxley hits the paradigm shift, he wins 70% of matches. But every time he attempts it and it gets reversed, fucking his opponent wins 33% of matches. So he'll have to look out for that. Like that, when they're like, Tony Khan's a statistics sports guy, that's what it should have been. And they'd be owning WWE right now. They'd be owning them, because you see WWE going in that more sports shit, and then they just merged with Endeavor. So all you're going to see is more of that sports packaging, the international sports presentation. The blood is going to come back. They'd be fucking 10 years ahead of the game, but they haven't hired your boy Phil yet. And with that being said, and this episode, I don't know if they started it with a package right off rip, but
they opened it with a video package recapping that last week, man. And
right, which they always do.
They got a phenomenal video editor.
Right, and they always catch you up on like what the show is, and that's what I like is even in WWE as well, you know, it's the same characters week to week. I watch a show and I know the main core characters that are going to be on this show that I enjoy watching. It's like that's the problem with AEW, is that and that's where this gets convoluted. Not to bring it to AEW, it's always a comparison, but see folks, we even compare Impact to WWE and AEW as well. It's not just those two. But you know, AEW, the thing is like you won't see a guy for 3 months and then you just see him and he's like in a hardcore match because of some shit they did on Rampage or on YouTube or something. And then people say, right, where's the stories? And then the AEW fans, which I'm one of them, but they mock people and go, and I'm not one of these people, but they mock people and go like, oh, where's the story? Everything needs a story. And it's like, that's not what we're saying. We're not saying like it needs this, everything needs an angle. And we're not saying everything, because everything in AEW has a fucking angle. You know, it's all, there's always an angle being worked. But when there doesn't need to be. But what it is like not a story in that sense, but just a story in like, okay, we need week to week progression. Like people compare like, oh, why is Cody facing Ludwig Kaiser this week? Where's the story? No. It's not the same thing. This is why, because WWE is like a college. It's like every week you tune in and it's the same people on the show and they're in their own little universe and it's like their own league. So when Cody faces like the whole story that we understand for the last 40 years watching WWE is that you're in this place and everyone's trying to compete to get to a championship or lay their claim or, you know, fight their way through the ranks and earn their spot. Like we understand, like when you're in the WWE, it's like when someone joins the UFC, you're just wrestling the best, you're fighting the best all the time and hoping to get your to get streak enough to get a title shot. We get that. With AEW, you're a new company. So what, like, and then you're like, oh, the rankings, but then the rankings don't mean shit and the records don't mean shit. And that's where it's like, no, dude, you can't just have Ring of Honor guys come on and then all of a sudden, like, what does that mean for this division? That's the thing. Every match in WWE has implications to the structure of WWE because we know these people aren't just gonna be on fucking FCW in next week winning their belt or whatever. Do you understand what I'm saying? So in AEW,
Yeah, for sure, man.
yeah, I know you get what I'm saying. I'm preaching to the choir even saying this shit to Hairline, but this is what Impact does well. Like, you know who their show is, you know what everyone's end game is, you know what the divisions are, you know. In AEW, it's just
Right.
like AR Fox. We were just harping on it. You know, he wins a trios battle royal with two guys, and then all of a sudden he's just in with another random two guys to fight for the belts. And then he's on ROH all the time. And then Claudio's in an AEW faction, but he's an ROH champion. That's why it's so ADD, guys. That's why we're saying it's like, well, what's going on here? Is this a professional sports league where you're working your way up? Or is this just like we're going to feature indie matches? That's what it is. Now, people go, well, we like that, but I'm sorry, that's not wrestling, bro. That's not like what wrestling ever was, you know. I'm sorry. So anyways, to get off that, Impact,
Wow.
yeah, they give us a great package. They remind us of characters. We know who their champions are, we know whose missions what, and who the show's going to be focused on.